Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are joining us for this CX Network Live Contact Centres webinar. My name is Georgina Vilcek and I'm the moderator for today's session, and very shortly I will introduce you to the Infosys team for their session. But just before we get started, here are some quick administrative points for you in case you have never used the On24 dashboard before. During the webinar, if you have any questions for any of the presenters about anything that they raise, you can submit them in the Q&A box on your screen, and they will be answered either as we go or during the official Q&A session, which will follow their presentation. And likewise, if you have any technical issues, you can write them in the Q&A box as well, so that we can get onto those right away for you. The widgets on your screen can all be resized and dragged around. So once you're sitting comfortably and you have your screen adjusted as you would like, I'll now hand over to Maddie Hegde, the Vice President of Infosys BPM, for their presentation. Maddie, welcome.
Georgina, thank you very much for that introduction, and greetings to all of you joining us here today on our webinar. Our topic for the day is From Jeeves to Jarvis, the human experience awaits. Now, you might be curious on why Jeeves and why Jarvis indeed there. So a lot of us are obviously familiar with Jarvis that we see on the right, given the recency of the Iron Man movies. Jarvis, for those of you who don't like Marvel movies, is the AI program who helps Iron Man with the diagnostics on his suit, and is an intelligent AI program, and one with a lot of personality as well. Now, Jeeves actually, on the other hand, predates Jarvis by close to 100 years, 1915 to be precise, and is a character created by the prolific English writer P.G. Wodehouse. Now, Jeeves is a valet to Bertie Wooster, and he helps him solve practical problems. So there are really metaphors here for one for technology and intelligence and digital intelligence, and the other more renowned for human skills, right? We use these metaphors for the two of them, and we actually have our very own Jeeves and Jarvis right here with me, and I'm going to introduce the two of them. So welcome Vijay and Anand on my webinar here. I'll start with Vijay. Vijay, our Jeeves. Well, here's an interesting start. He established a customer services company in Silicon Valley, ran it till about 2004, and then successfully sold it before moving back to Bangalore, where he is now based. Since then, he's been very active in the IT and the customer service industry. And today, amongst other things, he heads a portfolio of about 7,000 people across the globe, managing over 70 clients. Now, much like Jeeves, he is a walking encyclopedia, and you can talk to him about pretty much anything around. But I have to say this, unlike Jeeves in the novel, Vijay does not commit any fiendish tasks, which I'm quite disappointed. That's not really a compliment. And Anand is our next panelist here. Anand, aka Jarvis, is a technophile at heart and also a global nomad. So he's lived in, I really have to count this one, he's lived in Canada, he's lived in Dubai, he's lived in Australia, Singapore, right now here in the US, and with very clear plans to go across the Atlantic to the UK in the next 6 months. So Anand is actually a complete technophile at heart. To him, technology is really the answer to any problem. And I'm told actually that his next project is a robo that's going to help you tie your shoelaces. Welcome, Vijay and Anand.
Thanks, Maddie. And let me have the pleasure of introducing you, Maddie, and return the Bob, if you will. My colleague, Maddie, short for Madhusudan Hegde, is a wannabe movie maker and believes that he is actually the alter ego of James Cameron. And he's been with the ITES industry for almost 20 years now, and has mostly been on the sales side all this while, and has a stellar record. He is closed more than $1.5 billion in sales. So he definitely knows something about the industry. And look forward to a lively discussion with you, Maddie and Anand.
Nice comeback, Vijay. Thank you for that. Getting there, all in good humor, of course. Now, let me put this right back at you. Right? Think about Jeeves. Like I said, Jeeves is almost like 100 years old. Why is Jeeves even, relevant today?
Thanks for that particular question. And I think this is best explained through an analogy. If you move to the next slide, what I'm trying to do over here is to explain something known as the athlete equipment conundrum. Most of us that have played golf or have any familiarity with golf will hopefully recognize these two golfers. The one in color is, of course, the modern golf god to be emulated, Jordan Spieth. But the more interesting one is on your left, and that gentleman's name is Harry Varden. And you can see the type of equipment that Harry Varden played with during his day, which was pre-World War I. And Harry was a great golfer. He won many, many tournaments. But the surprising thing is Jordan Spieth's scores on British Links Golf are not very different from the scores that Harry Varden shot during his heyday. And the courses in British Links Golf have hardly changed. Now, the reason I'm putting this particular analogy in front of you is that it illustrates a very, very important point, which is that even though equipment has changed so much, the scores haven't changed. And what this proves is that ultimately it's not the golf clubs that matter so much, but the hands that hold or rather wield the club. And technology is, exactly like that. In the world of customer service, there have been large-scale investments over the last 40 years. But one striking point is that the problems that we are trying to solve in the world of contact centers or customer service largely still remain the same, related to attrition, agent fatigue, lack of empathetic service, and the list, kind of goes on. Despite the continuous and sometimes indiscriminate injection of technology, what we still find is that customer service scores have remained flat over the last 40 years. And this, again, reinforces the point to me that Jeeves rules in customer service currently, and that scenario is likely to remain unchanged for the foreseeable future.
Oh, wow, Vijay, thanks for that. And Jarvis, that's really got to hurt. What he's effectively saying is, look, you're fairly irrelevant. Technology is really par for the course. And really, human skill is the differentiator. We need an artificial intelligence answer to that, Jarvis.
Yeah. So we are calling Vijay Jeeves for the rest of the session. So Jeeves, the athlete's conundrum is interesting, but see, the game of golf has really not changed a lot in the 250 years that it's been around. The objectives are still the same, 18 holes, and you traverse through these holes, and that's the objective. But as you said, in the CS world, the objective and the playing field is dynamic and is changing. And we are, of course, improving the equipment also, which is the technology. Let's talk about the objective. Simple: respect customers' time, solve their queries, increase their satisfaction. And you spoke about satisfaction, Jeeves. So I did something very interesting last night as I was trying to understand. Are the customer behavior and expectations changing? Basically, is the objective changing in the CS world? So I looked at the American Consumer Satisfaction Index, and this is a pretty nationwide comprehensive study of satisfaction of goods and services. It takes the customer expectation, the perceived quality of the good and service, and the perceived value. And I plotted this for the 25 years that they've been keeping record across sectors. I even removed some of the sectors which are to do more with goods and focused on the one with services. And this is in a score of 0 to 90. In the last 25 years, this is reasonably flat. Now, clearly we are creating better goods, and clearly we are serving our customer better. So what is the reason of this flat line? The only conclusion I have is that the customer behavior or the customer expectations are changing. So I did something interesting. I went ahead and looked at what happened in these 25 years. What have we adopted as citizens of the world and Americans? What's come into our households? And look at the adoption of these really cool, digital, great experiences, these products which we have taken up. Smartphones, the experience through their video streaming, social media, but more importantly, look at the S-curve of usage. So that plots the rate of adoption and the pace of adoption. And as we look at the last decade, dramatic, staggering increase in the pace of adoption of these technologies. So our pace, our behavior and our expectations are really changing. That's the key point. Now, what also happened in these 25 years from the viewpoint of technology? Now, you mentioned about various technologies that's been tried and it didn't work. So I looked at what relevant technology actually came in, particularly cognitive, in the last 25 years. And the very first one was around 2011 with IBM Watson, which actually beat the two Jeopardy players for the very first time. So this is a question answering, or let's say answer questioning type of tech. Enterprise use and particularly contact center use of technology really sped up in the last, I think 2014 onwards, when some of the things like STT and the others went on the top of hype cycle. 2019, we finished with probably about $8 billion of spend in software, hardware, and services. And let me project forward something which Tracking does. In the next 4 years, Jeeves, what we are looking at is about a 4x spend projection in contact center technology. So this is AI, NLP, speech to text, translation, information extraction. So my point is technology or equipment, in your golf analogy, as we sit at the bottom of this really steep hill, is going to be a huge differentiator. So I'm going to counter to say that, in summary, the human skills are par for the course, and technology is actually going to make the differentiation.
It's an interesting, very interesting comeback. And I think this is a time that I kind of pull you in our question for you. And the first one is, all of you have been, on this one, been recipients of a customer service call. What is the most annoying part of a customer service call? And you have really 4 options in here, right? You can see them on your screen. These 4 options are, and I'll just share them with you. The first one, that awful music while you're waiting. The second one, I repeat all these automated IVRs where you go press 1, 2, 3, and that really feels like a treasure hunt. Being the issues are resolved in either in call or the same chat or the same interaction if you've moved perhaps between channels. So we might give you about 10 seconds as you go through on this one, and then we have a very good system here. Georgina and team have instantaneous results about that. Results just about coming up. Okay, those are really interesting statistics. I see it says having to repeat the same issue to multiple agents scores the most, and then you have something on the automated IVR. We tempted Jarvis to just tell you this. If technology truly worked, look, this whole notion of omni-channel experience and things doesn't seem to be working. Forget anything else. People are saying the IVR doesn't work. Really, I've got to kind of throw it back at you, right? And it's like, is it just that really the challenges are more on the Jeeves side? What do you think? You could make a case here on why Jeeves' approach doesn't work. What are the challenges on the Jeeves
Yeah,
side.
you're slightly breaking in and out, but I know exactly what you mean, and that's an interesting result. Actually, most people don't like repeating to the agents. So what's the challenges on the human side, the Jeeves side? So the way I look at it is there are two core abilities humans have: wisdom, which is judgment and empathy, and intelligence, which is all around data and resolution and metrics. At Infosys, we use a lot of design thinking in our approach as we work with our customers to find problems. And here are challenges I see. My first observation is that in the last 5 years, we have had the age of customer. And we have spent a great deal of effort and money in improving the customer journeys and experience. But the focus on agent experience has not been really proportionate. This has been a highly outsourced function. So it's generally seen as a BPO provider's responsibility to take care of the agents. The aha moment personally for me was I was listening to this podcast and the guy said, do you realize that at 2 p.m. in the afternoon, your $16 an hour outsourced agent, totally bored, is talking to more of your customers than your most highly paid sales executive? And I was thinking, really, I mean, that's so true. And what investments do we do on the agent experience, which is actually the biggest predictor of customer experience? Let's take training. Let's take agent training. Today, in most customers that I talk to, it is still classroom and instructor-led, script-driven, and the practical exposure to what life is limited to listening to a few calls, a few dummy calls with the trainer, and probably visiting the production floor. One customer told me that the churn rate at the end of training and probably 3 weeks into production is about 20%. So 20% of the people leave because the shock and awe of what's life in production. And that's just sheer money and effort lost in hiring and training. Now, as the agent moves to production, we have started using more and more self-service and bots which handle the easier queries. So these agents come in doing more complex activities and tougher queries. Now they face IT system issues, data discrepancies, and the knowledge management system. Maddie, I haven't met a single customer who says that their KM is top-notch. We still have agents who go search product guides and policies and sometimes end up incorrectly quoting them. And all this is because the product engineering side is moving fast, releasing new functionality and upgrades weekly and now even daily. So support teams cannot keep up with the changes. And the moment of truth in the customer journey is how well the support agent know their own products. And obviously customer expectations have been changing and their knowledge of products are also changing. Let's take the challenges for the supervisors, the team leads and QA folks. So they cope with their team skill gaps and churn, and they continue to have to focus on compliance and other operational metric improvements. And more recently, post-pandemic, they have to figure out new ways of working, new ways of building their teams with human connection, but in a virtual manner, in a remote manner, like what we are doing now, with a likelihood that the future of CS is partly or probably fully remote. Let's look at the challenge for the head of CS Ops. Now, her challenge is improving the center's operational performance, building a customer-centric culture while dealing with resiliency. And the CEO asks the same thing that we did earlier. Why is the customer satisfaction score or NPS flatline? And the CFO questions the investments that she is seeking. So these are the challenges I see. Maddie, you already took a poll on challenges on the customer side, so we can all relate to having to repeat stuff across different channels. So in summary, human wisdom does not scale, but intelligence can scale with the help of technology. Back to you.
So, Anand, are you claiming that modern AI technology can actually attempt to solve some of these intrinsically human traits or human challenges?
No, we are on the journey, and cognitive technology is getting there. And look, I always say that we don't need to be 100% perfect yet, but the problems that are worth solving, we just need to get better. Technology needs to get better than humanly possible. So we just need to get there. So yeah, we are on the journey, Maddie.
Very well said, Anand. And Anand, just as you said, rather Jarvis, saying technology just needs to do a little better job than humans can. Jeeves, your turn there.
I'm not really surprised with what Jarvis has had to say. He has made some strong points, but consider this. Technology is extremely rigid, and building that particular technology and changing it on a continuous basis is an extremely complex and sometimes crippling job. And people in enterprises, managers, etc., cannot really do this without engaging specialists, which clearly costs a bomb. The second point is that human beings, through millions of years of evolution, have sort of evolved around interactions. They have this need to connect with somebody human on the other side, to be acknowledged. And third, despite the proliferation of technology, and we saw that beautiful graph that Jarvis put up earlier in the presentation, customers at some level are angry that even basic service that companies should be providing to them has been, thrust on them. Companies have very conveniently taken the investment route, that's all right, but they have essentially externalized customer service and made it the consumer's problem. And what this does is that customer service has become mechanical, extremely draining on effort and time consuming. And just consider this one fact. Go to any one company's IVR and ask them what their most used option is. And I bet you it is going to be, I want to talk to a representative or agent. I rest my case.
Thank you there, Vijay, for that. And I mean, really love that last part where you said, agent or representative is the one word that's heard most, and can't disagree with it. Most of our audience won't. And speaking of agent or representative brings me to my next poll question. We're actually asking you, the audience, to do a little bit of rudimentary design thinking, if you will, here with us, right? We want you to step into the shoes of a customer service agent. Imagine you were a customer service agent. What would you like most of all, right? What would you like most of all? And I'll just kind of give you a quick view of your options here on your screen. Very lightly, right? Again, 4 options, fairly simple. The first one says just, as a customer service agent, just train me better, right? And the second one says it's all about the systems. Jarvis really isn't doing much. So give me some simpler systems, an easier way to work. The third one's actually kind of related, but something different. It says, just give me the right data. I mean, half the audience is frustrated because the fidelity of data is in question. The last one is quite interesting in there. It talks about to the world of customer service, which is rather scripted. So it says, allow me some flexibility in my interactions. Trust my judgment, right? I'm human, I'm good at this. So give me some flexibility. Those are your 4 options, audience. And, we will have, like the last time around, fairly quick responses right here as we look at them. And bear with me, sometimes some of this kind of refreshes as we speak. So we'll look at it. You're a lovely audience. You've fairly prompt on the response in there. Let's look at that. It's excellent. It says 60%. That's an overwhelming majority. If this were an election, it would be a clean sweep for whoever was there. Give me simpler systems and an easier way to work, and kind of split there in between in terms of just give me the data and an interesting human aspect there of allowing flexibility in interactions. It's very interesting to me that training seems to be kind of in the lowest bar in there from that standpoint. So really, this is where I think we need to flip sides. And Jeeves and Jarvis, I'm going to ask of you what we just asked of our audience, is to put yourselves in each other's shoes, right? Let's flip sides, right? And Jeeves can be Jarvis and Jarvis can be Jeeves. So let me start with you, Jeeves, considering you predate Jarvis. What would you like from technology, right? I mean, how would it help? Could technology help your goals as a practitioner and for all these global teams that you lead in operations?
Thanks. I think that's a fairly easy question to answer. First and foremost, technology must address real-world customer service problems. What it means is that it should help with solving problems such as being able to recruit the right people, being able to train them better, coach them better, enable them strongly with insights at the right time so that they can be effective with customers. Second, rather than technology feeling like a burden, it should feel like a light, fast, malleable, and purpose-built tool in the hands of customer service people. I don't think that happens as much as it is required in this day and age. I feel that the future of successful technologies is in assisting agents in doing computationally hard tasks, and we also saw that as a result in the previous poll. Traditionally, this has been in the domain of intelligence and analysis. If you do that, then agents will be able to concentrate on tasks that require empathy and connection with the customer. I'll just end with an example and take the same example that Jarvis spoke to earlier in his monologue, if you will, that rather than be trained by a human and be judged all the time, which is very, very hard on a new agent's confidence, it might be better for the agent to work with a training robot if something of this type can actually be created, which is accurate in its outcomes, but is non-judgmental and facilitates self-paced learning and those kind of things. This will not only ensure that the agent is well prepared at the end of training, but it will also not impinge upon the agent's self-esteem, which is a huge issue in the industry, worldwide. And I could also give you an example of quality. Quality today is statistically not a great process. And with the usage of AI and NLP and speech to text and the other way around, instead of just sampling and evaluating maybe 1 or 2% of the calls, we could raise that particular number, and our insights could be a lot more timely and a lot more, accurate. I think that's what I would do if I were to take on the Jarvis avatar.
No, that's great, Vijay. Thanks. Anand, kind of, as a digital strategist, if you think about the other way right now, what are the limitations of technology, right? Given there really isn't a matrix helmet, right? But I can just put it on, learn to fly a helicopter. Can we really replace human judgment, right? More importantly, right, technology has often been accused of being just a pet project, doesn't deliver what it's supposed to deliver. What are you willing to sign up for to help Jeeves, to help Vijay's goals?
Yeah, most certainly. Definitely not yet there in human judgment and empathy, which Jeeves here focuses on. We are not there yet, and that is the limitation. But let me talk about what I can sign up to at this stage. And interestingly, Jarvis, I know if you looked up, it's actually an acronym for just another rather very intelligent system. So what I can sign up for is that training part, and glad that Jeeves here mentioned that. I definitely think training we could replace over time, or at least optimize in fact, from the recruitment process, finding the best talent and training them in the individual personalized skills for each person, and then the QA roles which Vijay spoke about. So I can sign up for technology to optimize that. Effectiveness, definitely I can see us helping supervisors manage their team performance better, understand each of their individual skills, and make better unbiased scientific performance feedback and review, so we can help supervisors with that. Experience, I think very soon we can handle compliance, process compliance, system compliance, fraud, all of that technology can help. We can predict customer intents, that's obviously been going up quite a bit, and serve up better resolution steps and guided workflows to agents so that agents don't have to go and look for these information. And finally, empathy, definitely to get more proactive with customer issues, higher elimination and digital channel containment. So these are things I would regularly sign up for. where I'm also tending towards, as I start doing a lot of analytics of the conversations that have happened, Maddie, is I'm realizing there is actually key value. There's a lot of value in these analytics because they are the voice of customer. So I think over time, we can in fact provide incredible value on how the customers think about our products, our services, our brand by intense tech and speech analytics of value in these conversations. And I think over time, the contact center could actually be a value center. And I think that is possible.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that back and forth in there between two. And I think as you think about it, right, so I'm so sorry. I think there's something here on the slide. So we just did this particular thing. My apologies. It's moving here. We were bringing them together. And here's where, bringing all of us, when we talk about it, I think it's useful for us to think about this on two axes in here, right? So we've talked about human empathy, critical as being a very critical factor. And I think in our world, interactions have become more and more complex. So if you look at complexity of interactions from a low to high on the y-axis and the need for human empathy on the x-axis, right? You kind of come with 4 scenarios which kind of will help you think about how we approach this going forward, right? Really on the left quadrant where empathy, the requirement for empathy is very low, and these problems are also fairly simple. The complexity is simple. The level of technology intervention that you might need is reasonable. You tend to simplify and automate and do self-service, right? I mean, you push information, customer effort, make it easy for the customer to pick up something. That's really the simple one. That's solved. But really, and let's move to the right a little bit over here on the human-centric side of things, which is where you really need a lot of empathy. There's not much that systems can do. And if you go back to our poll, if you look at it, people are talking about how the IVR doesn't work or the systems aren't really there. And so you see, even if the task is fairly simple, sometimes perhaps technology is not advanced to it. And take a more extreme scenario. We've had this stuff, like I've lost my laptop or lost my device or I'm locked out of it. And there's no amount of technology that can help. I need a human being to talk to. So that would be a quadrant which we would call as more human-centric. And we'll come back to it, but there's a lot of effort and money being spent in this particular area as well. Now, if you think, though, the most interesting quadrants for us really are the top 2 quadrants, where there's a high level of complexity, right? Having automated the simple stuff, and there's a need for human empathy. Now, let's look at these quadrants in a little more detail. So think about this. There's a need for empathy is kind of low, but you've got high complexity, and therefore the level of, and I say complexity, I also use it as one where you can intervene with technology, and you can use technology in there to simplify and automate, but at a higher level. So this is where AI programs, business insights come in. Take an example of an agent who's looking at billing discounts, right? It's easy when you just want to do one discounting from that standpoint. There's a contract, the standard one. But when now you have lots of contracts, different enterprise level discounts, and the agent has to toggle between them. This is where the system might perhaps come up with and say, look, this is how customer behavior usually is. This is where they usually discount. They sometimes misapply this over here, and this is what you ought to do, right? Enable the agent very heavily, give the suggestions, and let him or her take it forward. But what's most interesting for us is the top right quadrant, where we really think the future really lies. I mean, if you think about it, it is the right degree of where we need both Jeeves and Jarvis coming together, the best human empathy that you can get to understand the situation, none of those IVR problems, none of those issues of data, and that's still solving not a simple problem, but something that is complex. We call it as a combination of humans augmented by software or humanware. And this isn't, like Jarvis, this isn't something right way out in the future. This is something that's here incumbent upon us. And who better than Jarvis to tell us what lies in store for us? And I'll kind of steal his thunder a little bit here by saying Infosys has launched Infosys Cortex 2. And that's what I'll let Jarvis explain to us what Infosys Cortex 2 is all about.
Yeah. So there are 2 choices customers have today as they want to, thank you, Maddie, for the slide. So there are 2 choices customers, large enterprises have. Either They can go about assembling all the various technology that they need, including their IT systems, integrate all of these and get them to work. And there is, as you saw, a whole proliferation of AI tech that's coming. So they become the master of this solution. Or the second choice is they could come to organizations like Infosys, who are a solution integrator, and look to us to identify, choose, select, and integrate the best set of functionality and pull that all together and implement it on possibly outcome-based models for the customer. So that's what I'm doing. I'm heading a team of the best AI engineers and conversation analytics technology geeks in the company. And we as a team are on the journey to build a platform we call Cortex 2. And Cortex 2 stands for a second brain to your brain. It's a microservices-based modular platform. So it's a bit of a plug-and-play Lego block type. And overall, we have 4 suites of systems. We pull together some of the best intellectual property that Infosys have and third-party ecosystems have on learning. So we have one of the world's greatest learning experience platforms called Wingspan. And what we have done in this to help Jeeves over here and his agents is completely simulate the production environment of how conversations happen with customer. And through this simulated manner, the agents are able to better understand and better learn how build up their proficiency, so to say. And this goes all the way from soft skills to specific relevant conversations that they are going to have. So they practice in their own time and get more proficient. So, and then it's almost like a flight simulator. When you're actually flying the plane, it's as if you were always in the simulator. The outcomes we can touch upon is time to hire, effective hire, and speed to proficiency. And then when they move on to production, we have systems which give a unified agent desktop, virtual coach which guides them. So the same training environment becomes now a coach, and it coaches them through guided workflows, nudges them as in their behavioral improvement tasks, and provides a lot of insights and analytics to help them do their job better, and a fantastic knowledge management system. And finally, for the operations head, we offer automation. We offer a way to look at all of these conversations and identify opportunities of improvement, opportunities, those key moments in the journey of the customer, which can be made better. We have a micro bot factory, which allows us to automate these steps for the agent. And finally, for the customer, this is, we respect our customers' time. We help resolve the customer's queries the first time around, route the customers to the right agent, and possibly even predict the NPS. So rather than wait for the satisfaction scores to come up, we are able to predict what the satisfaction score will be. So we are pulling all this together, Maddie, into a platform called Infosys Cortex 2 and working with some of our key customers for this.
No, that's great. And thank you very much for that overview on Cortex 2. And I think as we pull them together, right, Jeeves and Jarvis, while independently competent, they aren't going to be individually enough as we look ahead. And as a combination, this is a case where the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Leveraging the very best of technology, which gives us additional intelligence, consistency, scalability, and specialization, which is these are all characteristics of technology. And when you do that, you free up human potential to help and augment us. One can actually argue that it actually results in amplification of all human traits that we talk about: creativity, empathy, and as was referred to earlier, even wisdom. So instead of Bertie Wooster, it's perhaps Jarvis who says, right or Jeeves. Thank you, folks, for that. Georgina, I guess I'll hand it over to you at this point.
Yes, thank you very much. And I would like to thank the audience as well for some amazing questions which are coming through from the audience. Do you want to tackle some of those, Maddie? We have just a few minutes if you'd like.
Perfect. There are quite a few questions here, Georgina. I'm going to pick a few in here, and I'm going to kind of direct send some around. So let's take the first one here. It says, a question here from Len says, how likely are we to see a tech-augmented customer experience in the near future? within the next 5 years? Jarvis, tech augmented customer experience. We talked about it in the next 5 years.
Already happening. I see a significant impact in the next 24 months, and tech to play a very key role within the next 3 years.
I think that's very good, and I think some of those examples we talked about, Len, in terms of training and so on, I think are already live on some of these floors as we think about it. Let me take a slightly different tack here. Another question here talks about, in many instances, from Amanda, it says customers are not able to articulate their problem. What is recommended? And Vijay, Jeeves, I should send it over to you, but I think this really comes across where we lightly alluded to the concept of design thinking and how we think about customer journeys from that perspective. But it's a really pithy answer, brevity sold for me, but I'll let Jeeves give you an expanded one there. Vijay?
Yeah, thanks, Maddie. This is a genuine problem in customer service, and the best way to handle this is to free up your agents from all sort of peripheral issues and allow them time, energy, and the opportunity to focus solely on the customer. And eventually, through experience, they will not only be able to tell the articulated need of the customer, but they will also be able to recognize the unarticulated needs. And then over a period of time, this data can be fed into your systems and connected to a certain set of explicit requests. You will have some knowledge of what the associated but unarticulated requests are likely to be. And that's how you can move from proactive customer service to actually anticipation-based customer service, which is a superior form of engaging with your customer. Thanks, Mary.
Very good. Thank you very much. Yeah, I think I'll pick one here, which has got more recency to everybody around considering COVID, right? This one says enterprises had to pivot to work from home models during the pandemic. What are your views on this becoming more sustainable? I mean, are we going to see 100% work from home? Vijay, I'll start with you and then you can chip in.
So I think work from home was already a movement at scale even before the pandemic. There are several companies in the United States that had over 30,000 people in their workforce working from a work from home kind of a model. What COVID has done is to accelerate the movement towards that particular model. I think a hybrid model where anywhere between 30 to 60% of your workforce works from home on a permanent basis is going to be the rule of the day. And those that remain back in the office are going to be because of either some specialized need or some specialized roles. And at an organizational level, the only reason I think that that might be necessary is to sort of create, educate, and sustain a culture amongst your employees on a long-term basis.
That's very good, Vijay. And if I may just add, it's an added dimension. It's a little bit of a digression, but frequently we get questions around really on security and so on. And I think it's a given that the way the world is evolving, the threat surface is obviously going to increase, right? But I think that's where even security systems have to evolve with this particular thing, where frankly security has been made for systems, security has to be made for people, the way people function. And increasingly as we think about work from home, that's one of those dimensions that we are seeing on with a lot of people. Let's just take on a good one in here, right? And at the end of the day, Jeeves and Jarvis, this is all about outcomes. And one of the big ones we talk about here is the metric of NPS. How do you, a very open-ended one here, which says, how do you improve NPS for the organization? Vijay, want to take a stab at that first?
Yeah, I think I will take a stab at it. And I think the best way for me to be able to answer that particular question, and I'll again use a sporting analogy, is don't confuse the equipment for the athlete. If your athlete is bereft of capabilities, no amount of investment in the clubs is going to help you. To put it in simple, plain English, the first thing to do is to get your basics in running a contact center absolutely, absolutely right. The people have to be right, the skill sets have to be right. They need to be put in an environment where their incentives are right. They need to be enabled, and they need to be doing the job for all the right reasons, which they alone will know. And if anything, beyond that, they need to be augmented and amplified through superb technology, which acts as a force multiplier rather than as a burden. I think if you take care of these things, then you have a really good shot at being able to deliver great NPS scores.
And then if you want to just kind of come on at NPS scores from a technology standpoint and how we might, get a lot more predictive about it, right, in terms of value that we might want to deliver as just one aspect, and a little bit of the movement that we want to see on how we think about it.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll also, I saw a very interesting question from Marion, so I'm just going to push that and answer both of these together. And what Marion asks is, between Jeeves and Jarvis, who's the key to success of CX or NPS, as if you had to choose one? I think Vijay or Jeeves over here said it well, that don't confuse the equipment for the skill. And the way I would say the previous question, and this is, technology can help us measure at the lowest granular atomic level what contributes to customer success. What we can measure, we can control, we can refine, and we can evolve. And that is why Jarvis is important for us as an enabler to help us predict and course correct as we go along. Jeeves is really key because the human touch eventually matters. And as many people have been saying in the audience, and the poll question also said, you do want to speak to a human at the end of the day. So let the human provide the empathy and the judgment, leave everything else to technology.
Lovely. And actually, it's great you picked up that question on between Jeeves and Jarvis, who's key to success. And I almost wanted to tell Marion, look, I wouldn't choose between the two. And that's why we have both here on this call. It's the right blend. As I left with, the whole is greater than sum of the parts. But I think we're running out of time, as Georgina politely reminds me here. Thank you very much for participating. There are a few unanswered questions here. Thank you for those. We will get back to you. We absolutely, I think, Georgina, have this available for later for audience view as well. I'll hand it over to you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Maddie. And you're absolutely right. Everything will be available very shortly on demand. If you happened to have missed any aspect of the last best part of an hour, you're very welcome to go back and listen again. So thank you very much to Maddie and Anand and Vijay for a really informative webinar. And thank you too to the audience, wherever you happen to be, for taking the time to listen in today. Remember, you can check out more of our upcoming and on-demand webinars at cxnetwork.com, and you'll also find some really informative downloadable resources just here on the desktop for your information too. But for now, thank you very much to everybody at Infosys and to everyone in the audience as well, and we look forward to seeing you here again soon.